Our reading this morning is an excerpt from Rooted Resistance, The Spiritual Lives of Filipino Organizers by the Reverend Joseph Santos Lyons. In movements for justice, there's often an unspoken expectation that clarity is strength, that leaders should know where they stand, what they believe, and how to act without hesitation, that contradiction signals confusion, and tension signals weakness. But what if the opposite is true? What if in certain contexts, the ability to hold tension, to remain present within contradiction without rushing to resolve it, is itself a form of strength? What if this capacity is not incidental but cultivated? And what if it offers a different model of leadership for movements navigating increasingly complex social realities? When cultivated intentionally, the capacity to hold tension becomes a form of leadership. Filipino organizers shaped by spiritually complex formation often demonstrate an ability to navigate environments that require holding multiple perspectives, mediating conflict, and sustaining relationships across difference. They are accustomed to ambiguity. They are able to remain present where others might withdraw. Strength can be found in staying and holding and discerning over time. Contradiction, rather than being eliminated, can be engaged as a site of growth. Not the absence of tension, but the presence of a deeper, more resilient way of being, one that is rooted not in clarity alone, but in the courage to remain within complexity. So the good and the perfect, maybe you've heard about them. Maybe they visit you sometimes, like they visit me. The words from our chalice lighting about the difference between all or nothing or all or something, I'm a recovering all or nothinger, trying to make it to all or something. Years ago, I was part of a group of people who created some Unitarian Universalist housing cooperatives here in Boston, and we did a lot of the initial planning over video calls, which is now common for a lot of folks, but back then was a little bit unique. And when we had one of our very first in-person meetings, after months and months and months of video calls, someone said to me, "Wow, I feel like I've known you because we've been on all these calls, but now that we have met in person, I've learned something very important about you, which is that you really can't stay still." And it's true. I am often stretching, moving in other ways, mostly stretching in meetings, definitely if I've been sitting for a long time, sometimes even in the back of church. I never played sports as a kid, except for one incredible season as a 5-year-old on the soccer team, and another season on the swim team a few years later where I only swam exhibition matches. If you know, you know that means that you weren't good at all, and so you just swam to swim, not to try to win. Exhibition. So I don't identify at all as an athlete, but I definitely do identify as a mover, as someone who sleeps a lot better at night if I've gotten my heart rate up, and whose lower back, it turns out, hates sitting. And I've become a little bit known in some of my social circles as someone who's willing to sacrifice any sense of propriety to move my body whenever and however. I have moved my body in the conference rooms at the Unitarian Universalist Association where I used to work, in the airport lounge showers, and on more back porches and basements than I can count, and often in my own kitchen between stirring something in a pot and monitoring burners between burpees. My friend who has witnessed many a weird late night mini workout or me just randomly doing calisthenics in a living room corner while everyone else just hangs out, sent me this article about how it's often our all or nothing attitude that keeps us from doing what we want to do more of. In the article, a researcher found that when people weren't able to, in the case of this study, exercise in the way they wanted, they often did nothing instead. And so the conclusion is that doing something and sticking with it isn't about more discipline, but about more flexibility. The key to doing something we want to do more is letting go of that all or nothing and going for that something. Can't go for a swim at a beautiful beach with the water at the perfect temperature and the sun shining and the breeze breezing? Okay, try hosing yourself down in the backyard. Can't go on a hike in the beautiful White Mountains? Try walking to your toddler's daycare with your infant in a baby carrier. Not more discipline, more flexibility. The article concludes, just do something you didn't do yesterday. And while I do have this strong muscle for making sure I move my body in some way, I fall into this trap all the time. I fall into this trap with other practices that I know are good for me, that I know I want to do. Things like journaling, reading, meditation. 3 things I haven't done in months, maybe years, and that I definitely feel a sense of all or nothing about. Like, why start a book that I know I won't be able to finish? Why try to meditate one day when I feel confident it will just be that one day? The same friend who sent me the article about flexibility over discipline also recently asked me if I wanted to do a couch to 5K for reading with her, where you slowly read more and more and more each day until you're reading for 30 minutes a day. I have not read what she sent me about this couch to 5K concept for reading, but I am already very intimidated and feel very all or nothing about it. Right now, I think many of us face all or nothing in some part of our lives. Almost every day, I think about how I'm not showing up the way I showed up under the first Trump administration in fighting the injustice in the world because my life has a different shape. And I have different family and work commitments now than I did more than 10 years ago. I see so clearly all the things I'm not doing. For years, I've been saying I want to door knock my block. I want to support my neighborhood's Ice Watch in ways that I can't right now. I want to door knock for the candidates I believe in. I want to dig into the conflicts that are holding back work in our movements, and. There's so much that I can't do right now. And I feel those same limitations and frustrations about parenting. I want to be the parent with endless energy for playing and games and spraying the hose in the backyard. I want to have comprehensive knowledge about every single age-appropriate activity that we could be doing at any given moment in time. I want to be up to date about all the latest child development research. I want to have it so together that I'm taking my kids biking and backpacking and gardening and. And that's just not what I can do right now. I can do some things to move our world toward more justice, some things to be a parent and a child and a friend and a partner. And I try not to let my grief about all of the possibilities that there aren't time for prevent me from doing what I can, being who I am, to try to let go into flexibility over discipline, something over nothing. We heard words from the Reverend Joseph Santos Lyons, who's a Unitarian Universalist minister who has led social justice efforts and now lives in the Philippines. And he did his doctoral research on the spiritual lives of Filipino activists, interviewing many who had fought and continue to fight different kinds of right-wing repression in the Philippines for years. Some of you may know even more than what I'm about to share now about the political context of the Philippines, but I share it to just give a little bit of understanding of what organizing in the Philippines can look like. The current president is the son of the infamous dictator Ferdinand Marcos, who ruled the country under martial law. And the current President Marcos faces arrest due to failing to pay millions in restitution to victims of human rights abuses under his father's rule, but he enjoys immunity as the current head of state. Human rights abuses, including the assassination of activists and journalists, remain rampant. And the previous president, Rodrigo Duterte, was a right-wing populist who oversaw death squads that murdered thousands. Last year, he was arrested and transferred to The Hague and will stand trial for crimes against humanity. But he continues to serve as mayor, with his son governing in his absence. Which is all to say, people organizing for more justice and healing in the Philippines face a lot, have seen a lot. And I was so intrigued to read some of Joseph's research and his conclusions that were in our reading today, that so much of their ability to stay in the work, despite facing death all around, came from the ability to hold tensions, to not be pulled into absolute thinking, dichotomous thinking, to let go of the all or nothing, and to choose the something. When people ask me about the hardest part of parenting young children, I often say I have a very, very privileged experience so far, that the hardest parts have not been so hard. But one thing I do find hard is the MO of FOMO, the missing out of the fear of missing out. Because it's not actually fear, it's the actual missing out. It's my friend's 40th birthday trip to Costa Rica that was the same weekend as the due date of my second child. It's the milestone events that fall exactly during bedtime. It's not the stuff that's a pain to bring kids to. It's the stuff that you literally can't, or they won't let you. Whitewater rafting and indoor theater, spontaneous nights out and sleeping in. So I try to focus on the something, that we might not get to the summit, but that we went on the hike. That we didn't try that hot new restaurant that they definitely don't want young children in, but we got takeout, and it was really, really good. I try to train my brain to exercise more flexibility, to hold more tensions. And it's hard, because I really, really like summit views, and I really, really like buzzy new restaurants. In the social justice work, too, there are so many ways that we are falling short, that we are not getting to the summit. And it's tempting to see it as all or nothing, the perfect or the good. The stakes are so much higher, after all, than a hike or dinner out. To be unprincipled, or to trust the wrong people, or to carve people out of a policy has deadly impacts. And conflicts in our communities and in our movements for justice keep people away. I want us to be fighting for as long as we can. And I think to do that, we have to hold as many of the tensions as we can. When I was a teenager, I was very privileged to be given a book, George Jackson's Soledad Brother. Some of you may know that in August, in some communities, some people honor Black August and the Black radical liberation tradition and struggle. For those for whom the name George Jackson might not be familiar, he was an organizer and a young person who was incarcerated, given an indeterminate sentence of 1 year to life for stealing $71 when he was 18 years old in 1960. He spent 10 years in Soledad prison, and 7.5 in solitary confinement. He studied Marxism, Leninism. He wrote multiple books on race, revolution, class, and he was murdered by a prison guard in August of 1971. Less than 3 weeks after his murder, hundreds in the Attica prison honored him with a hunger strike and moved towards what would be known as the Attica Prison Uprising. So in these August days, when we're wondering whether what we can do is enough, when we're wondering whether we are enough, I think of George Jackson, of Black August. George Jackson, who was in a lot of ways very uncompromising in his pursuit of liberation and in his sacrifice. He wrote, "Settle your quarrels, come together, understand the reality of our situation, understand that fascism is already here, that people are already dying who could be saved, that generations more will live poor, butchered half-lives if you fail to act." He wrote this in his 20s, in the 70s. Do what must be done. Discover your humanity and your love in revolution. Both humanity and revolution. Because of course we are imperfect in parenting, in being children, in fighting for a better world, imperfect as friends, partners, neighbors, people who have shown up today, this Sunday morning in person or online. As the Reverend Laura Ruth Jarrett would say, we are only human, doing the best we can, broken and blessed. It's such a tricky thing, this chasing of the perfect and the good. In so many ways, I'm good with the something over nothing. I'm good sneaking in that movement in a bathroom somewhere or in the corner of a social gathering. A good enough beach, a clean enough house, jumping jacks in the bathroom instead of a hike. I'm proud to be a non-native Spanish speaker raising Spanish-speaking children, constantly every day facing my mistakes and holding the tension that they will learn and inherit my errors, with the truth that here is my 3-year-old correcting my Spanish. And in other ways, it never feels like it's good enough. The stakes are so very high, whether it's the future of our children or the future of the world. I do think the answers are in these sacred holding of the tensions. As Santos Lyons wrote, not the absence of tension, but the presence of a deeper, more resilient way of being, one that is rooted not in clarity, but in the courage to remain within complexity. Do what must be done, said George Jackson so many Augusts ago before his murder. Discover your humanity and your love in revolution. Both. Humanity and revolution. Something over nothing. Flexibility over discipline. And yes, the good over the perfect. I have not decided if I'm ready for the reading Couch to 5K. I guess I should probably read what it fully entails first. I feel intimidated by reading for 5 minutes a day, which is the first week, and trying to work my way up to 30 minutes at once. But I know that the sacred is in the trying, whether we're trying to just be humans in this inhumane world, whether we're trying to carve out justice and revolution, whether we're trying to show up for the people we want to show up for, including ourselves. The sacred is in the holding of the tensions, in the humanity and the revolution, in the something, in the good. Amen, and may it be so.